Her name is Diane Bauman.
Hi, everybody. It's an honor. Hi, everybody. It's an honor to read my little poem to you tonight. It's called Nonagenarians. I'm still here, is our cry, in reply to the fear of the reaper's call, as we all age. Age well, we're told, like a scold. To comply, we must try diet and exercise, engage and socialize. 90 plus, life's bonus. Uncertainty's the game. Days aren't the same. Doctor's appointments, magic ointments. We fetch, we cheer to remaining peers. Hey, look at each of us. Stereotyping's ridiculous. Some are frail, some are hale, some delight, some ain't right. Some hide from catastrophes that overwhelm our history. Why can't old age be another stage of opportunity for humane unity? How great to be leaving a legacy of activist hope by daring to cope. Thank you.
So back to my question. Where does prejudice start? Let's see. I'm sure that when you were a young child, somebody read to you some nice story. Then you became a parent or a teacher and you read a story to somebody. Then you became a grandparent and you read a story to someone. So now you're going to be the judges. And when I say something that sounds sexist, you're gonna shout back to me, sex. When I say something that sounds classist, like the poor against the rich or the rich against the poor or whatever, you're gonna shout, yikes. And when I say something that is ageist, you're going to say, boo. Okay, like boo. Yes. Now, if you hear something that sounds sexist and classist and ageist, you have to say, I already forgot. The three of them, which were, okay, let's make the first one. Oh no, that was for sexist. Then, oh no, it was sex for sexist. Then for the second one, classist, you're gonna say, oh no. And for the ageism, you have to say, boo, okay? So what would give us the three? Hansel and Gretel. So let me just give you parts of it. This is, and I'm gonna summarize the beginning. Listen well, because now you're judges. This is a story of a family where there is a father, a stepmother who is bad, and two children that are very nice. The stepmother decided that she didn't want to cook for those children when there is not enough money, so she decided they have to go. So the father has to take them to the woods and leave them there. I didn't hear anything. So now let's jump ahead. You know what happened? They got lost and then they finally found a beautiful house that smelled very good. And this is what you were read to and what you repeated to the others, to the children you met. As they tried, no, the hungry children, finally they found a house. The hungry children couldn't resist the delicious aroma and soon began to nibble on the walls. Suddenly the door creaked open and an old woman stood before them. "Hello, children. If you're hungry, there are plenty more treats inside the house," she said, kindly beckoning them inside. When they entered, the children found a wonderful feast laid out on the kitchen table. There were plates piled high with cookies, cakes, and pies. There was more food than they had ever seen before. "Don't be shy. Eat as much as you like," the old woman said. Hansel and Gretel began to eat. The children had no idea that the kindly old woman was really a witch in disguise. She had spent a long time making her house and was angry that Hansel and Gretel had eaten so much. The witch planned to cook the children and eat them. After the children ate, the witch locked Hansel in a cage. Over the next few days, etc., she was feeding him, waiting for him to get fat so she would cook him. Gretel soon realized that the old witch was old and nearly blind. Ladies and gentlemen, you're booing, but that's what you heard. That's what came into your brain and mind, and that's what you expected from old women. We become witches. So that's how the idea started. Here we live in a fantastic community of seniors, and even though we haven't found real witches, we do accept many of those prejudices in others and ourselves. So let me introduce you the panel that will talk about what did this project do to them or what did they learn. And I'm going to start from left to right. Oh, and I was almost forgetting that while I was reading this story, it suddenly dawned on me that I discovered a new ism. We know about sexism, we know about racism, etc. How would we call a prejudice against second wives that become mothers, against, what's the word? Stepmothers. If you look at Hansel and Gretel, Cinderella, Snow White, all those women are terrible witches. So should we add that to the long list of isms? I think we should. So let me introduce you. I need to find my paper. Here it is. Oh no, I'm forgetting the best thing. I cannot leave you just to go home with this terrible story of Hansel and Gretel. So I found some things that you might enjoy. You all know about, you're familiar, I'm sure, with Agatha Christie, the writer, who said something fabulous about age. She said, "An archaeologist is the best partner you can have. The older you get, the more he or she will like you." And I love this one. I forget who the author is, but it goes like this. "My memory is not as sharp as it used to be. Also, my memory is not as sharp as it used to be." Okay, this one came from Rita Rotner, the funny lady, describing her grandma. And she said, "My grandmother was a very tough woman. She buried 3 husbands, and 2 of them were just napping." Finally, who can forget this line from Mark Twain? "Age is an issue of mind over matter. If you don't mind, it doesn't matter." Or does it? So let's hear from our speakers. Let's start with Carol Bowl. Carol has been a resident of the village since 2005. She's a graduate of the University of Michigan. As director of sales training for 3 companies, she created many sales tools, including videos. So she was excited to work on this video project. She has enjoyed many experiences living in the village, such as being co-president of the Reformed Temple of Laguna Woods for 3 years, and she said that she's looking forward to many more happy years here.
Good evening. My name is Carol Bowler, and I'm delighted to be here to share my experiences as one of the writers of our Ageism video. I've been a member of Community Bridge Builders since its inception. So when I heard about this ageism project, I was anxious to sign on. As interested as I was to participate, I had no idea the profound effect that this experience would have on me. Let me share how the whole project progressed. The committee of 15 interested volunteers began meeting in August of 2023. We learned that we would be creating a 4-part video with 4 vignettes to help people understand how attitudes about ageism have been internalized. To give the audience an opportunity to experience ageism firsthand, and to understand how ageism is compounded with other isms. Ageism is everywhere, although to many it is invisible. The plan was to make the invisible visible, to create awareness of what ageism is, and ultimately to recognize when we are its victims. It will be a video done by older people for older people. And once completed and launched, trained volunteers will conduct workshops for groups in the village and ultimately outside of our community and even internationally. During these presentations, we will facilitate discussion about how viewers discovered their own attitudes about aging and how they may have been victims or even perpetrators and never realized it. Just describing the project to you makes me emotional. How exciting it is to be involved in such a worthwhile cause. I think this quote from Victor Hugo says it best. There is nothing more powerful than an idea whose time has come. It all sounded great, and then Rebecca challenged us with questions about what ageism is. How aware are we of it? Do we recognize it when we see it? What can be done about it? We all had different ideas and answers, and when asked to share some experience of shaming or being shamed as an older person, it was difficult to come up with examples. So if we didn't know what ageism is, how are we supposed to make others aware? For me, this was a real eye-opener. I realized that I knew very little about a topic that I was supposed to write about. We saw some videos, and the group had some very enlightening discussions. As my awareness grew, I began reading numerous newspaper and magazine articles and books about aging and ageism. And little by little, I learned about its scourge, how it embeds its evil tentacles into every aspect of our lives. And that really bothered me. How could I be so unaware, especially when I live in a senior community? Next, Rebecca shared with us an extensive list of issues touching on every aspect of ageism. The list was daunting. with over 15 topics. Then each of us was asked to prioritize which we felt were most important and which one we wanted to work on. Ultimately, the list was reduced to 4 topics and became the basis of the 4 vignettes in the video. The topics for the video are: 1, what ageism looks like in real life; 2, elder abuse; 3, how men and women are treated differently as we age, including how age, ethnicity, race, culture, and sexual preference relate to health and healthcare; and finally, 4, the business of aging, how multi-billion-dollar industries, such as the beauty industry, to name just one, manipulate women, men, and young people with slick ads to tell us that aging is bad and using their products will prevent it. Then each of the groups began meeting on their own to create their vignette. I especially enjoyed this part of the project. I have been involved in the last topic, the business of aging, follow the money. Together, and with a shout out to our team, Rebecca and Dennis Backer, we created a story about a family's experience with skin products and plastic surgery. A story that shows the effect of internalized fear of aging over 3 generations. Additionally, we researched and show examples from the time of Cleopatra through the 20s, 30s, and 40s, and up through to the present. How companies manipulate and guilt women and men to use their products to prevent aging and make billions doing it. If I'm making it sound easy, it wasn't. One of the challenges was making it clear that we are not criticizing people who buy these products because it makes them feel good or that they like the way it makes them look. No, it's about those of us who become slaves to fighting the aging and buy into their message. It took many hours of brainstorming and fleshing out ideas, and sometimes starting over again. It also took a lot of research, but it was worth it. The finished product shows how multi-billion-dollar industries manipulate men and women, even from the time we are as young as 8 years old, to buy products to prevent aging. How they use fear to manipulate, and how vulnerable people are at any age, but especially when they are older. I used to be oblivious to TV magazine ads and TV ads and magazine ads, but no longer. Many of these offers are nothing more than scams. One way I was impacted from participation in this project is that I went from, it's awful, but what can I do about it, to learning how I could make a difference. I became inspired. Having a more in-depth understanding of ageism, helping to write this video, and conducting workshops to make others aware is a very fulfilling and exciting opportunity. As I said, I knew almost nothing about ageism, and yet it is the most widespread and acceptable prejudice today. I'm going to repeat that again. It is the most widespread and acceptable prejudice today. We are stereotyped as just one homogeneous group, all alike, and now we become the out group. Negative attitudes about aging cause stress, shame, depression, grief, resulting in lack of confidence, illness, and often a desire to isolate. Elders speak or condescending language to elders such as, "How are we feeling today?" or using childish language when speaking to an elder does nothing more than reinforce stereotypes of elders and thus affects self-esteem. Aging needs change, and change induces fear. Whether it's fear of not having enough money, giving up driving, or no longer being able to live at home, to name just a few. As I learned more and more about ageism, I was surprised to see how many people slough it off when they see it or are its victim. People's negative age belief comments are not challenged because they don't know how to speak up. And that was one of our challenges, to make people aware of negative remarks being said and then giving them the tools to speak out. Recently, when I went to the doctor for back problems persisting after I'd had back surgery 6 months before, the doctor's assistant said to me, "Well, you do have a 79-year-old back." It took some courage, but I did speak up and told him how insulting his comment was. I already know how old my back is, but that doesn't mean you don't have to try to fix it. Unfortunately for many, it's easier to let it go by. What difference can one person make? Another time, I went to a movie in Costa Mesa with a group from the village. When you went on the bus, there were many older people in the audience. The film was The King's Speech. Afterwards, I went shopping at Macy's, and as I was standing in line to pay, I overheard 2 women behind me talking about the movie and all the old people there. One of the women said, "They must have let them out of Leisure World to see the film." I turned around and I said, "I'm one of the old people they let out." And the other day, I saw a car sporting a sticker that said, "Elder driver, watch out." Now, I do have a sense of humor, but that sticker didn't strike me as funny. In fact, it was offensive. There is a wonderful quote from the Talmud that says, "It's not up to you to finish the task, but neither are you free to desist from it." That quote is in response to a discussion about people who won't take on a task or start a job because they don't think they can finish it. What this passage teaches us is that we are still obligated to try. We can pass our efforts on by teaching the next generation by our example. Instead of passing down the example of what they can do to prevent aging, we need to pass down how they can recognize negative age beliefs when they see them and make their friends and colleagues aware. I have every intention of talking with my 3 grandchildren about it. And while they have always been respectful, they are all going into fields where awareness of ageism would be a valuable tool. As seniors, we have every right to expect to be treated with respect, compassion, and civility. Awareness of ageism doesn't stop here. Rather, it starts here. The video is now being filmed. After our groups were finished creating their stories, they were handed off to professional scriptwriters. Actors have been casted, and the project is well on its way. A video done by older people, for older people. What an honor it is to participate in a project from its inception. A powerful idea whose time has come. Thank you.
I forgot to tell you at the beginning that this project has had the fortune of having 80 volunteers participating in it. each one of them doing something very special, which you will be able to see. And I would like to ask for those of you that are part of that volunteer wonderful project, could you please stand up? If you can stand up. So let me introduce you now to Sunita. Sunita was a high school teacher for 30 years, both in New Delhi. You were born a teacher?
I want to believe.
That was an ageist comment. Sunita was a high school teacher for 30 years, both in New Delhi, India, and the US, especially in California. Her passion was to facilitate her students in building character, knowledge, and the tendency to do their best. And she does that with all her friends. She's proud of her Indian roots and loves the country where she lives now. Sunita, please.
Thank you, Rebecca. Hello, everybody. Good evening. Namaskar. I'm Sunita, as Rebecca introduced me, one of the writers of our elder abuse story. The two other members of the team are Shari Horn and Annette Katz. Shari, you are here somewhere. There you are. Let's give her a big hand. Thank you. Unfortunately, Annette could not be present today because of a prior family commitment. When Rebecca mentioned the project Ageism, Making the Invisible Visible, it immediately sparked my curiosity. What is ageism? Being a woman and a woman of color, I was familiar with the common terms sexism and racism, more than some other isms like classism based on the economic system, heterosexism, which refers to one's sexual orientation. So of course, to quench my curiosity, I reached out to my dear friend Google for a definition of ageism. And this is what I learned. Ageism refers to the stereotypes, how we think, prejudice, how we feel, and discrimination, how we act toward others or oneself based on age. Who does ageism affect? Yes, ageism affects every one of us. You, me, young and old, our society, country, and the world. I learned the term institutional ageism that happens when social norms, practices, and rules are unfair to older adults. For example, a workspace that insists workers retire at a specific age, dismissing the capabilities or knowledge of an older worker. Therefore, having younger workers qualify and be promoted. Here is a piece of information that came to me as a surprise. In contrast to the label of senior citizen starting at age 65, ageism can start popping up for workers as early as age 40. How many of you know about ageism at 40? Raise your hands. Well, then we are going to be educated better when we see the video. In ageism, is ageism protected in the US? Yes, but only in the workspace. I repeat, yes, only in the workplace. The Age Discrimination in Employment Act forbids age discrimination against people who are age 40 or older, and as I mentioned, applicable only to the workplace, no other occurrences. I wonder in reality how effective this act is. How many of you knew that this act exists? Very few again. After in-depth understanding of the term ageism, we were ready to initiate our story on elder abuse. When I was young and naive, I used to wonder, how can elders be abused? They are absolutely harmless. Until some years ago, I read a shocking news item that just broke my heart. Unfortunately, it happened in India, my birth country. A major pilgrimage is held in a cycle of approximately 12 years where the devotees bathe in the holy waters of the river Ganges to wash off their sins. During one such pilgrimage attended by more than 100 million, many families deliberately abandoned their elderly parents, mostly women, on the pretense of getting lost. The families considered their elderly parents a burden. Why? Because they no longer could help with the daily household chores. So of what use were they now? This is a distressing case of elder abuse. The report shattered my psyche, but inspired me to work towards stopping elder abuse anywhere and everywhere. Through the development of our project, I was able to give my resilient conviction a true form. During our exploratory phase of the Elder Abuse Vineyard, each one of us chose different areas to research. We learned that a good number of seniors suffer psychological abuse every year. Rates of elder abuse increased during the COVID-19 pandemic. Elderly Americans lose many billions of dollars every year because of financial abuse. Regrettably, abuse of older people is predicted to increase. Why? For the reason that many countries are experiencing rapidly aging populations. Elder abuse is not just a phenomenon in the US, it is a problem of the world because, as we know, the global population of people aged 60 years and older will more than double by the year 2050. That's frightening. Some of the revelations were indeed frightening. Abuse of older people can have serious physical and mental health issues, financial and social consequences. For older people, these results of abuse can be especially serious and recovery may take longer or may never happen. So friends, we need to act now. Based on our findings, we put our thoughts together and decided that the focus of our story will be psychological, physical, and financial abuse of elders, and of course, the location of our scene, Laguna Woods. We also carried out extensive research on different organizations who help with seniors and also case management. After in-depth understanding of the term ageism, we were sorry, I think I'm losing my page. I will be back. Okay. Okay. We also, our next step was who will be the characters of our storyline. Not quite to our surprise, we found from police data that majority of the victims of elder abuse are women. So we selected 3 women, the victim and her 2 friends. Barbara, the main character, would be the victim. Next, who will be the perpetrator? An analysis of calls in the National Center on Elder Abuse Resource Line found that family members were the perpetrators in more than half of the incidents. How many of you think that half is an accurate number? No. Sadly, it is much more than half because many elder abuse cases, particularly where the perpetrator is a family member, go underreported. In our story, Barbara's grandson is her perpetrator, who's abusing her psychologically, financially, and physically. One of our goals is to have an impact on the millennials and Gen Z also. They need to understand their responsibility in bringing a social change and stop elder abuse. After a series of brainstorming meetings at Annette's home and over bowls of popcorn, our storyline developed. As a team, we sometimes agreed to disagree, but always arrived at a general consensus. We finally decided Barbara, the main character of our story, will be a retired psychologist. Psychologists use evaluations and talk therapy to heal their patients, as we all know. But like many in her profession, Barbara was unable to help herself. As we were approaching the conclusion of our story, we unanimously accepted that to report or not to report the perpetrator, who is a family member, now rests on Barbara, the victim. So, the title of our story, It's Up to Barbara, was born. I also learned how I could identify possible elder abuse. For example, noticing bruises, black eyes, changes in sleeping or eating habits, sudden change in bank accounts, or if the caregiver refuses to allow visitors. These are all red flags, friends. So how can we help? Firstly, listen to the person. Acknowledge that he or she is saying and validate their feelings. If you feel that abuse is evident and the victim agrees to seek help, tell someone who can help or relay your concerns to the local adult services. If the elder is in immediate life-threatening danger, don't wait. Call 911 or the police. These actions may not seem easy, but we cannot be bystanders. We have to act before it is too late. Otherwise, we may regret later. During my research and thereafter writing this story on elder abuse, I gained immeasurable knowledge and insight. Now, I feel notably enlightened. Are we all ready to act? Let us pledge. We will come together as a community that wants to bring a change and strive to stop elder abuse. Friends, let me now close on an encouraging note. Don't be mistaken, there are also some perks of old age, as per LA Times journalist Steve Lopez's column. Here are some blunt, liberated attitudes and advantages of being invisible. A gentleman said, "I have finally figured out nobody cares what I wear. So I wear cargo pants or shorts and an aloha shirt basically everywhere. I consider this to be the height of fashion." A lady said, "I wear my bra a lot less. Let freedom swing." Thank you.
Thanks so much, Sunita. I can think of another benefit when you're 105. There is no more peer pressure. So let me introduce you. The next speaker is Miss Carol Glenn. Carol is an actor, dancer, director who has worked both sides of the camera and on the stage. Her training in theater started at the age of 15 in San Francisco. It continued in Hollywood with a Shakespeare troupe and then in films. Her talent for directing was honed here in Laguna Woods over the last decade. Among her many productions were adaptations of the Pauline Inheritance, the Guernsey Literary Society, as well as several main stage packed productions and 2 Renaissance Fair Shakespeare performances. Please welcome Carol Glenn.
Well, I think the most important thing about what we're doing, we're talking about ageism, but what I want to say very briefly is this wonderful lady has started the whole thing. Okay, you've heard from the writers, and I think they have done a fabulous job of explaining what it is that we've undertaken here. Rebecca came to me and she asked me if I would help to produce what they had created. And it's been a very fascinating journey. Ageism, what does it mean to me? Well, I was an only child and I grew up with my grandparents. So to me, I didn't think of age the way a lot of people do, where they have other kids and families and grandparents are somebody you go see once in a while. I was with them all the time. Personally experiencing ageism, when I was up in Vegas, I was looking for a job as a convention model, and I barely got in. You know why? I was 32 years old. And look at all the sports figures. We just watched the Olympics, and what have we seen? Younger and younger children. There are a few tennis players who are still holding on, but for the most part, the game is going to the young. But boy, we're still in the game, definitely. Rebecca came to me and she asked me if I would help to produce, and she gave me 4 fascinating scripts to work with. And I said, oh, no, I'm not going to do 4 scripts. I'm going to find some really super directors, and they're going to come in and help me. One of them right here is Gila Salon. Michael Pontecorvo is another one of them. I did one. And guess who did the 4th one? Our Rebecca. My chore was to pull together an ensemble of actors, and boy, are we blessed here in Laguna Woods, because there is just a fantastic group to pull from. And again, some of them are here, and some of them, well, here locally, let me see, we have Lee McMorris, and, oh heavens, who am I not seeing? Who else? Sherry? Our Sherry Warren was in it. And help me out, is anybody I've missed? Because I can't see from here, the lights are too good. Well, oh, Sunita, yes, and David. Our dear David, who is always there when we need him, definitely. Arlene is, thank you. You know why I don't need the glasses most of the time. Oh, Pearl, yes, Pearl. That's right, I got confused because the segment that Rebecca did had a cast of thousands, or at least it felt that way when we were trying to set up the schedule. But anyway, and then, because we did need younger people to fulfill the parts in the other segments, we have our wonderful Carrie Pullhammer, who was our narrator. And let me think, who else? It was in my head a minute ago. I'm having a senior moment, and we don't want to talk about those, do we? But you know what I found out? It's still there. I just need a different pathway to find it, but I haven't lost it. Tony Redmond, yes, Tony was a big part of that as well. And oh heavens, I think.
The 12-year-old girl?
Oh, yes, thanks to Tony, we got some of our young people in. The young man who participated in the elder abuse sequence, and he is the sweetest one, and he was so worried about grabbing Sherry's hands and being rough on her, because he had to go home to celebrate his grandmother's birthday. So we had a few wonderful stories like that going through the shooting, and we will wrap up shooting on Tuesday. So it's been about 3 months, I think, since we started putting that together, but it's almost done, and then it goes to the editors, who are going to be working away like little busy ants. And next February, we will have our premiere, and that's what I'm really looking forward to. The red carpet and all of our wonderful actors. Oh, Barbara, I forgot. Barbara, you were in one of those sequences. I did see. Yes, Barbara. Red carpet, February. And having said all that, let me give you a chance to meet one of our other actors. Well, Rebecca, will you take over?
Thank you so much. Carol, it's only been 3 months of filming?
Well, for my part of it.
Oh my God, I thought it was 3 years. We actually started this project more than a year ago. It was the beginning of June of 2023. So it's been more than a year. And I'll pay you later for your kind words about me. So let me introduce you to David. David used to be a school teacher who, upon retirement to Laguna Woods, wanted to pursue his interest in acting, doing theater with like-minded residents. It was more than he could hope for. David has had the opportunity to work with many professional actors, including Golden Globe winners, TV luminaries, and well-known actors. David was happy to be involved in the Ageism Project as Bob in The Last Game. He will tell you about it. But he says, this experience gave me a whole new outlook on ageism as I discovered that it is a problem that is often overlooked or disregarded. And he also says, theater can offer a powerful way of bringing attention to a worldwide concern. Please help me welcome our dear David.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. No one has ever had trouble hearing me, and I'm sure that's the case this evening. First of all, I'd like to thank you all for coming out on a Sunday evening. Not always easy to end the weekend coming to a Community Bridge Builders, but thank you all so much for coming out this evening. Appreciate that, and here's a hand for you. I was in the Community Bridge Builders production of The Last Game, which happened to be a poker game, which I lost, of course. And it's the actor's job to tell a story, to get that message that the writers have created, the director has envisioned, and the producer has made all the parts come together. So that's the actor's job, to tell the story. Before the actor even steps on stage, he or she needs to know the backstory. What are these people about? What's the situation? Okay, we're going to present a situation to you, but what happened before that? And possibly what may happen after that. My role in the last game was an old white guy who was gay, right? Who has lost his partner because of a seemingly unfair circumstance, who is now impoverished, okay? And I can't wait for you all to see it. You're going to come to the premiere in February, okay? It's still in post-production. The cast in which I was involved with was a really gender and racial mix. I had two of my friends working with me. Ajit, you probably know Ajit from being around, okay? And Alan Williams, who was a dear friend of mine. We've been on stage together. And also introduced and met, although I slightly knew, Avida, okay, who was Eva. And she came in very near the end because we had lost a character in the play who just said, oh, I have a conflict on that day when we were shooting. So here's a friend, a new friend, which was one of my experiences, a positive experience that I gained from that, and working with her. So it was quite the gender mix, all right? You also have to have the setting. Where is this taking place? The setting of the last game was in the living room of the deceased gay guy's partner. And as I said before, it was a poker game. The story covers so many social issues, including ageism. Of course, there is the same-sex marriage, all right? Ethics, bias, cultural bias, gender bias, complicated by age bias, many, many biases which we see in our community, unfortunately, not to a great extent here, but too frequently in our world, okay? The idea is, if I'm on stage and I'm giving my all to this production, I want it to come across to the audience. The nicest thing that anyone can say to me after a production is, that was a very, very good story, a very thought-provoking story. We've all gone home from a movie or a play and said, wow, that was interesting. That makes me think beyond what I just saw tonight. And you certainly guarantee that you've all had that experience. I'm hoping that the productions that you'll see will be sufficiently thought-provoking, particularly the last game, okay? But it does tell a story. From the actor's point of view, you hope you create a credible, believable character. My wife and I watch TV together. It's a pleasure. And we often shake our heads and say, nah, that isn't going to happen. They should have called for backup earlier. And so we don't want that to happen with the shows that we're doing here, okay? We want it to be credible and believable. And it's also very important to make sure that you're working, the chemistry is working with the characters that you're on stage with. It includes the lines, the blocking. I taught high school for many years and theater, and one of the things we did, which will not be demonstrated this evening, is a trust fall, okay? Anybody ever been involved in a trust fall? Okay, you know what I'm talking about. For those of you who haven't, the actor stands on the stage facing upstage, okay, back to the audience, and other cast members hold their arms together like this, and the person falls backwards, straight back. And I've never seen it fail, because you've built that trust and you have that trust, in the people with whom you are working, okay? This also need to know your lines, and that's a help. But more important, I learned from a director once, you have to know your cues, right? And you have to give your lines so the other person with whom you are interacting can figure it out, okay? I've been on stage several times when there have been silences. You look around. Whose line is it? Did I blow a cue? It's the worst feeling in the world. Trust me, okay? I've been there. There's a sign in Robert Preston's dressing room. Remember Robert Preston from The Music Man? Okay, sign in his dressing room. Security is knowing your lines. And of course, we know what a wonderful job he did as the Music Man, okay? All acting is interacting. Okay? Even if you're doing a soliloquy, you're interacting with the audience, okay? And as we've already learned tonight, it starts with an idea, okay? Then it becomes a vision. Then it becomes a production that the actors, the producers, the writers, the directors, the costume people, everybody involved, okay, wants this to be a worthwhile endeavor, okay? What are the actors' rewards for doing all of this, okay? There is some monetary reward. I remember between my sophomore and junior year in college, I auditioned for a summer theater program, okay? They were hiring 10 people. I was number 11. But one of them dropped out, and so I became number 10. And the monetary reward was wonderful. $10 a week, and room and board in this college cafeteria. That didn't even pay for the beer. And there are other rewards, of course. I have had the opportunity to work here with Golden Globe winners, TV movie luminaries, as Rebecca has suggested. But more importantly, I have worked with at least a half a dozen or more people who are here tonight. If you've been in a production with me or been on stage with me, would you raise your hand? Because it's been my honor to be on stage with you. Thank you so, so much. I really, really appreciate it. And I just got a little applause. They just got a little applause for a job well done. Thank you all. And thank you so much for Rebecca.